The chamber of the Galactic Council glowed with cold light, its high vaulted ceilings lined with banners from 100 worlds. Rows of alien delegates filled the tiered seats, their strange forms shifting and muttering in excitement. At the center dais, bound in chains of radiant plasma, stood 12 humans, prisoners of war dragged across the stars to be displayed like trophies. The execution was not hidden in shadow. It was spectacle. The council had arranged for every broadcast relay, every holoscreen across their empire, to show this moment. A message to Earth and its colonies. Defiance will be crushed. Humanity is broken. Resistance is meaningless. The humans, dressed in torn uniforms and rags, bore the marks of captivity. Some were soldiers captured on distant fronts, their armor stripped and replaced with shackles. Others were diplomats, seized when negotiations collapsed. One was simply a young colonist who had been in the wrong place when the council's enforcers swept through. But none looked down. Their backs were straight, their jaws clenched. Even in their silence, there was defiance. The presiding counselor, a tall reptilian figure with scales like polished stone, raised a clawed hand to hush the chamber. His voice echoed through translators, deep and mocking. Behold the children of Earth. They thought themselves warriors. They thought their words carried weight. Today they stand before us defeated. A wave of laughter rippled through the alien assembly. Tentacle beings clicked mandibles in amusement. Avian delegates trilled with derision. Mechanical-bodied species let out static bursts of approval. The executioners approached, towering insectoid guards armed with energy pikes. At a signal, they drove the captives forward, forcing them to their knees before the crowd. Shackles glowed, pulling their arms wide as if in a grotesque parody of crucifixion. The chamber hummed with power as the ritual devices were activated. The humans did not beg. One soldier spat blood at the floor, earning a vicious strike across the face. Another muttered under his breath, words picked up by the translator feed. Do it then. The first execution was swift and merciless. A spear of plasma pierced through a man's chest, vaporizing the air around him. His scream echoed once, then was cut short. The crowd erupted in cheers. Holographic broadcasts carried the image across the empire. Millions of alien citizens watching humanity's humiliation in real time. The second prisoner, a woman in a tattered Earth diplomatic uniform, lifted her chin even as they prepared her death. Her eyes swept across the chamber, not at the aliens, but at the cameras. When the energy blades closed in, she whispered something no translator could capture, her lips forming the words, "We endure." One by one, they were executed. The colonist boy, no older than 19, died without a sound, staring defiantly into the lights. A grizzled sergeant went last, bound to a frame of burning energy that scorched his flesh until nothing remained. His final words, rasped through agony, carried across the chamber. "They'll come for you." The counselors laughed. The audience roared. The executions were declared a triumph. Alien leaders congratulated themselves on a lesson well taught. Let the galaxy see the futility of resisting the council's order. When the last human's body crumbled to ash, the presiding counselor spread his arms in theatrical grandeur. "Let this day be remembered," he boomed. The Earthborn thought themselves mighty. They were nothing. Their spirit, broken. Their future, erased. Cheers shook the hall. Speeches followed, mocking Earth as a dying world, a species clinging to outdated honor. One delegate declared, "Their blood will water the roots of our dominion." Another scoffed, "Primitive mammals with delusions of grandeur. Today proves they're incapable of survival." Propaganda machines work quickly. Across alien cities, the footage replayed endlessly. Humans dying in agony, mocked, forgotten. Children of other species pointed at the screens and laughed at the apes. Neutral governments received the message loud and clear. Aligning with Earth was suicide. But not every viewer laughed. In shadow corners of less powerful worlds, whispers spread. Some found the Council's cruelty unsettling. Others questioned whether such brutality was necessary for an empire already unrivaled. Doubt, faint but present, began to stir. Light years away on Earth, the truth arrived in silence. A smuggled transmission, stolen at great cost, reached the underground networks. The broadcast was replayed in darkened rooms, across hidden colonies, aboard battered outposts still loyal to humanity. Families watched with hollow faces as their loved ones died on alien soil. Soldiers watched with clenched fists. Leaders watched with eyes of steel. There were no speeches, no rallies, just a heavy, simmering silence as the images burned themselves into memory. The deaths were not defeat, they were a spark. In the war rooms beneath Earth's surface, admirals and commanders reviewed the footage. None spoke for a long time. Finally, a voice, low and steady, cut through the stillness. "They think us broken. They think we'll bow." Another answered, colder, "Then let them learn." Plans already in motion began to accelerate. Shipyards hidden in asteroid belts shifted to full production. Old warships, mothballed in forgotten stations, were rearmed and reforged. Black Ops fleets rendezvoused in deep space, far from the Council sensors. Smugglers and outlaws carried supplies through secret channels. The name passed among commanders, whispered first as an idea, then spoken aloud as a vow. Operation Fire and Steel. Its purpose was not negotiation, not liberation. It was vengeance, measured in ash and flame. As the alien crowds dispersed from the council chamber, still mocking, still certain of their dominance, humanity was already moving. Engines thundered in hidden hangars. Ammunition stockpiles were loaded into waiting ships. Silent oaths were sworn. The galaxy had watched Earth's prisoners die. Soon, the galaxy would watch something else, the firestorm of retribution. And in the darkness of a deep space bunker, an admiral of Earth's fleet whispered to himself as he watched the last human's execution replay once more. "You wanted a lesson. You'll get one." Engines roared. Shadows stirred. Operation Fire and Steel had begun. The void of space was silent, but in hidden corners of the galaxy, humanity stirred like a beast waking from slumber. Shipyards buried within asteroid belts lit up with fire as forges blazed. Ancient war hulks, thought forgotten, were pulled from rusting orbit and reforged with new weapons. Engineers, farmers, miners, smugglers, every able hand was called to work. Humanity was no longer preparing for survival. It was preparing for vengeance. Across the command decks of black-painted warships, admirals and captains stared at the smuggled recordings of the executions. Not one word was spoken. The images alone were enough. The soldiers of Earth didn't need speeches, didn't need reminders. They had seen the crucifixions, the sneers of alien delegates, the laughter as their people died. In a bunker beneath Mars's dust-red surface, the final council of war convened. Generals stood around a table projected in blue light, the holographic map of the Galactic Council's core world shimmering above them. No one raised their voice. The silence was heavier than steel, broken only by the final order of Admiral Kepler, the man who had commanded the first defense of Earth and survived. His words carried no fury, only certainty. There will be no negotiations, no mercy. They chose this. We finish it. The operation's name was etched into history in that moment. Operation Fire and Steel. The first strike came without warning. In the heart of the Galactic Council's pride, the jewel of its empire, a planet known as Volcera Prime. Alien citizens lived in glittering spires that pierced the clouds. No alarm sounded when the first human stealth ship slipped past defense satellites. No fleet scrambled when dark shapes appeared in high orbit, their profiles hidden against the glare of the system's twin suns. By the time the alien sensors registered the intruders, the bombardment had begun. Columns of blue plasma, streaking down like spears of judgment, slammed into the Council's palace. Fire erupted through marble halls where the executions had been celebrated only weeks before. 1,000 years of alien dominance burned in an instant. Panic gripped the capital as human ships revealed themselves, sleek, angular destroyers, frigates, and carriers, their hulls painted in war black, no insignia save the silent flag of Earth. They moved not like a chaotic swarm, but like predators in perfect formation. The Council's fleet scrambled, proud cruisers launching from orbital docks. But the humans had studied them well. Every weakness, every blind spot in their formations was exploited. Swarms of human fighters tore through alien interceptors with ruthless precision. Torpedoes pierced shields. tearing open the underbellies of ships twice their size. Alien commanders shouted disbelief. How were the humans here? How did they have such weapons? They had been counted as weak, fractured, incapable of uniting. Yet here they were, fighting with coordination so flawless it seemed less like battle and more like execution. In less than 3 hours, Velcara Prime's defense fleet was ash and wreckage. On the surface, resistance faltered. Alien soldiers rallied in the streets, but human dropships descended like falling stars, disgorging armor marines armed with weapons built not for intimidation, but for annihilation. Plasma fire lands through alien formations, streets painted with flame. The humans did not stop to take prisoners. Every plaza, every barracks, every execution ground tied to the Council's crimes was purged. The rumors began before the fires had even died. The humans have returned. They take no captives. They are fire and steel. The campaign spread like wildfire. Council slave markets, once packed with beings from 100 species, erupted into chaos as human fleets arrived. The slavers, who had paraded humanity's captured children in chains, found themselves facing Earth's wrath. Human soldiers stormed the pens, not with intent to rescue but to annihilate. Chains melted. Stockades turned to rubble. Every slaver was cut down without hesitation. To the freed slaves of other species, the message was unmistakable. Humanity's vengeance was not reserved for themselves alone. It was justice, delivered with merciless hands. Execution plazas where humans had been displayed became the first targets of orbital strikes. Vast squares where billions had once watched their humiliation were now craters, black smoke rising where laughter had once echoed. Alien governors begged for mercy. Some tried to defect, pleading that they had opposed the executions, that they were innocent. Humanity did not listen. The fleets pressed on. This was not conquest. This was eradication. In the dark halls of Council Command, fear began to replace arrogance. They had mocked the humans, dismissed them as primitives. Now their fleets lay shattered, their strongholds burned. Delegates who had jeered at executions now whispered in terror. The Council had been certain humanity could never rise. Now they prayed humanity might stop. But Earth did not stop. On the 4th week of the campaign, the humans seized the Council's primary communications hub. Within hours, every major network in the galaxy carried the same transmission. No matter where one lived, in the shining heart of the Empire or the ragged edge of its colonies, the broadcast could not be silenced. The screen filled with the scarred face of Admiral Kepler. Behind him, through the viewing port, alien ships burned in orbit. His voice was calm, steady, and cold. "You executed our people," he began. "You mocked our weakness. You believed Earth had been broken. You were wrong." His gaze did not waver. Every word was a blade. "We are humanity. We do not forget. We do not forgive. Operation Fire and Steel has begun. To those who stood with the Council, your extinction is next. To those who did not, stay out of our way." The broadcast cut to images of the Council's capital in flames, its spires collapsing as human warships prowled the skies above. The signal ended. The galaxy erupted. On neutral worlds, beings who had once mocked humanity fell silent. Some whispered in awe, others in terror. Mercenary fleets that had once fought against Earth now found themselves abandoning their contracts, unwilling to face the humans in open war. Formerly enslaved species began uprisings, emboldened by the sight of the Council burning. But above all, the message was clear. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity had become the predator. In the smoking ruins of the Council Palace, human marines raised a flag of Earth. Its colors rippled in the heat of burning stone, a symbol not of peace, but a promise. The galaxy will remember the day humanity rose from chains and humiliation, not with pleas for mercy, but with fire and steel. And somewhere in the void, as the fleets of Earth regrouped for their next strike, Admiral Kepler stood at the command deck and looked into the stars. His hands clasped behind his back, his eyes as cold as the dark beyond. "They thought the executions would end us," he murmured. "Instead, they've written their own death sentence." Engines roared as the fleet shifted course. Operation Fire and Steel was only beginning. The galaxy would learn. Humanity had endured. Humanity had returned. And this time, humanity was not forgiving.